Today's topic is entitled, How Long Do I Have to Worry About an IRS Audit? If you are in the cannabis space, you are or should be fully aware that the IRS is making a concerted effort to audit cannabis businesses. Now, although cannabis sales are still illegal on the federal level, that isn't stopping the IRS from auditing your business. If your business is set up as a pass-through entity, you can rest assured that they will likely pull your personal tax return into the audit if your business is being audited. So pass-through entities are partnerships, S corporations, and multiple member LLCs. So you have to be really careful if you're set up as a pass-through. You have to really think about what the consequences are if your business is being audited, how that is also going to affect your personal tax return. Now, because of budget cuts, the IRS has cut back on the number of audits that they perform, except, of course, if you engage in a certain trade or business, or if you are a high income earner. In that case, the audit rates are much higher. So what type of businesses are susceptible to an audit, you may ask? Well, first and foremost, cash-based businesses are very high on that list. So not only is the cannabis industry an illegal business on the federal level, it is also considered a cash-based business, which means these are two good reasons to be concerned about an IRS audit. So the IRS's main focus when they are auditing cannabis companies is 280E. They are looking to see if your business is complying with 280E, which prohibits the deduction of ordinary and necessary expenses. They are also looking to make sure that separate entities are not being created as a cover to deduct non-deductible expenses. So generally speaking, the IRS cannot audit your tax return after 3 years. So if you filed your return on or before the due date, which is April 15th for personal returns and May 15th for business tax returns, then the 3-year clock starts to run on April 15th or March 15th of the year that your return is due. For example, your personal 2020 tax return is due on April 15th, 2021, which means the IRS has until April 15th of 2024 to actually audit your 2020 tax return. Now, there are a few exceptions to the IRS 3-year audit rule. Okay, one of them is if you underestimate your income by 25% or more on your tax return, the IRS can extend the 3-year audit deadline to 6 years. A second reason is if you file what the IRS considers to be a fraudulent tax return, there is no limit on an audit. The IRS's definition of fraud is conduct that is meant to deceive the IRS for your personal benefit. And a third reason is if you fail to file a tax return altogether. In that case, you're wide open to an audit until you actually file your return, at which time the statute of limitation clock of 3 years starts to run. Now, typically, if you haven't heard from the IRS within, let's say, 6 years of the due date of a return, you've likely escaped any further action by the IRS because they hardly ever go back more than 6 years when it comes to enforcing unfiled tax returns. So if you're worried about a return that you file, or rather that a tax return that you were supposed to have filed 10, 8, 7 years ago, typically speaking, if the IRS should ever reach out to you, they're not going to worry about going back that far. Usually they just stop at the most recent 6 years. Now, if you are one of those unfortunate business owners or individuals who is going to be audited by the IRS, you'll usually receive a letter from the IRS between 12 and 18 months after you file your tax return. Now, the IRS won't contact you by mail or telephone to inform you that you're being audited, because a lot of times there are some scams out there where you have people giving you a phone call or sending you an email regarding an audit. Well, just keep in mind the IRS will not contact you that way. Generally speaking, they will contact you with a letter. Now, if you haven't heard from the IRS within 18 months, you likely will not hear from them. That said, none of this is written in stone, so don't be surprised if the IRS contacts you in, let's say, the 19th month. And what I'm talking about is if you filed a timely tax return and 18 months has gone by and you have not heard from the IRS, you likely will not hear from them. And this is for audit purposes, okay? If you're ever under audit, if you haven't heard from them within 18 months, then more than likely you will not hear from them regarding auditing that particular year. And the reason is because the IRS makes certain that they have enough time to start and complete an audit before the statute of limitation runs out. And the statute of limitation is 36 months. So if they contact you after 18 months, it's more than likely that they may not have enough time to complete that audit before the statute of limitation runs out. Now, when I worked as an auditor for the taxing authorities, if we knew that we were not going to complete an audit before the statutory deadline, we had the option of asking the taxpayer to sign an agreement to allow us to extend the statutory deadline. Now, most taxpayers agreed to sign this because they feared that if they didn't sign it, that I would rush through the audit, which they assumed wouldn't be in their best interest or wouldn't be to their advantage. Okay, so the big takeaways from this episode is that 1, the IRS has 3 years to audit your timely filed tax return. 2, the IRS can extend the time they are allowed to audit your return from 3 to 6 years if they suspect fraud. They can extend the time to audit your return if you don't file a timely tax return. And they can also extend the time if you underreport your income by 25% or more. 3, the IRS will not contact you via email or via a telephone call to let you know that you are about to be audited. They will contact you using snail mail. And 4, the IRS is aggressively going after cannabis businesses and high income earners.